We got quite a few comments on the GWM Tank video, the recent top 10 good and bad, and then we did a couple of, we did a short for YouTube as well as a video for Instagram. So thank you for all the comments. I thought I'd take some time now to address some of your concerns. Firstly, a very sincere apology. I did say something that I didn't mean to. It was a flippant comment. I was in the middle of working and I just wasn't thinking. But I suggested that council workers actually work, which clearly I was very, very wrong. As pointed out by Jeffrey Fox 60, council workers don't actually work. So sorry about that, and thanks for pointing that out. In all seriousness though, I said at the end of the video that wheels coming off the ground is an issue, and I suggested that it's an issue, and I suggested that, you know, applying the brakes in an emergency during cornering could present some pretty serious problems, which it would. And we got a lot of kickback from that, such as from a person on Instagram going by the name of Kev the Chef Not. Why would you be braking going around S corner? Well, as John Cadogan pointed out in his video, which covered a bit of my braking test, so thank you John Cadogan for referencing my video, an emergency is an emergency. You can't plan these things. So if you're coming around a corner going 60 kilometers an hour in a sort of semi-residential area, as a kid runs out onto the road, you're not going to hit the brakes. You're just going to keep driving straight. I mean, you're going to keep turning around the corner and not apply the brakes at all. You are going to hit the brakes. It's just a human reaction. I think that's not the problem though. The fundamental problem is the rear wheels coming off the ground during braking. I've tested around 1,000 vehicles and none have done this. None that I can remember have popped the rear wheels during heavy braking. So I did it with the tank at 60 kilometers an hour, 80 kilometers an hour, and 100 kilometers an hour, and the wheels popped off the ground. The rear wheels popped off the ground every time. There were a few comments as well from very generic looking accounts. And I don't want to suggest anything weird going on, but I don't know. Tell me what you think. These comments, such as from this guy, user-QL5QQ5YH8N. Another one here, at user-LM3WI3VM7B. Why don't you do a hard braking while cornering at 80? Yeah, I bet you didn't, because only idiots do that. Well, here's a video of a person named Ayrton Senna, who you may have heard of, driving the original Honda NSX around, I think it was Suzuka Circuit in Japan, and as you can see, he's applying the brakes while driving around a corner. I operate a Tank 300, driving, braking are all at the highest level. Before that, there were MMC, so that's Mitsubishi, Montero Sport, L200, so in comparison with them, the Tank 300 is controlled as a Formula 1 car. Controlled as a Formula 1 car, I don't know about that. Even compared with a Mitsubishi Express van or L200 or Triton, it's not as controlled as a Formula 1 car. And then lastly, from at @OzRuff, first, I think using the wrong car to compare the stats. Toyota Prado is a bigger four-wheel drive to Tank 300. Jeep is more appropriate to Tank 300 size. Jeep is horrible in fuel consumption and handling. You can't use Jeep to compare the stats with Prado as well. Two different spec and size. That's my opinion. Well, we've got a Jeep here right now, a Wrangler Rubicon to be precise. So this is the most hardcore off-road version. So perhaps the worst example for braking performance, partly because it features the proper off-road tyres. Now these tyres have huge grooves in them. They're great for dispersing mud and water and sand and all that sort of thing, but each area where there's a groove, it means that's not touching the ground and that's not providing braking performance. These sorts of tyres are very specialist. They're meant for off-roading, obviously. So I have tested the braking with the V-Box. It did require a decent stopping distance to stop from 100 kilometers an hour, even compared with that Tank 300. But again, it's because it's got these tyres on it. If you put the Michelin Primacy tyres on it that were fitted to the Tank 300, they were SUV, or they said SUV on the side, but they're still very much road-going tyres and much more grippier on the tarmac than these things. Anyway, let's see if I can get the rear wheels off the ground. I'm going to try as hard as I can, and I'll put the camera somewhere underneath the vehicle where we can see that rear wheel. Preferably I'll hang the camera right down so we can really get that contact with the tarmac, and if there's any window that pops up if the wheel comes off the ground. There we go, we've got a clear view of the tyre on the ground there. Hopefully that stays on. I've got it just mounted to the side of the chassis there. I'll do the test from 40 kilometers an hour, 60 kilometers an hour, 80 kilometers an hour, and then 100 kilometers an hour, and I'll also do it on the other side as well. Okay, so that's on the other side now. We'll try the same tests at the same speeds, 40, 60, 80, then 100. That last one there was 120 kilometers an hour, just for good measure. There we have it. The rear wheels did not leave the ground during hard braking in the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. As hard as I probably tried harder in this than I did in the Tank 300, they still would not budge. It's quite interesting, I think. I want to know what the actual cause of it is on the Tank 300, because you could argue, okay, it's got grippier tyres. The Michelin tyres are grippier, so it's going to bite in the ground harder. But it still doesn't, why doesn't the Porsche 911 pop the back wheels then? That's got very grippy tyres, plenty of downforce on the front and all that sort of thing. It still doesn't pop the rear end. I think there's more going on here. I think the weight distribution is not set up properly. Like, there might be too much weight over the front axle, allowing it to sort of pivot like a seesaw. But I think the suspension is also a big issue as well, because during braking in that thing, it really dipped right down, and I think it crashed into the bump stops, which would cause a sort of mechanical reaction and, yeah, maybe popped the rear wheels off the ground purely because it crashed down onto the bump stop. In the future, I want to do a test with an old car. I'm going to try and bring one up here and clamp the back brakes so the back brakes don't operate at all. So just the front, and do a few tests along here and see what happens. I really don't think that will make a difference either. I don't think the brake distribution is a problem either, because it still comes down to why the weight is moving off the rear axle and going to 100% on the front axle for that moment where the rear wheels are in the air. I don't think having the front brakes, in a normal vehicle, the front brakes do the majority of the work anyway. It might be 70 or 80%, depending on, the ground that you're driving on. If you're going down a hill, it's going to be obviously even more, and things like that. But having it 100% at the front, I still don't think that's going to cause the rear wheels to pop on a normal vehicle. Just to be clear though, my original intention wasn't to cause a stir and get people not to buy the GWM Tank 300. It was merely to highlight an issue. All vehicles have issues, including this Wrangler. It's got some serious issues as well. It hasn't passed 5-star ANCAP and things like that, for example. It was literally, it came up as I was filming, and I thought this has got to be shown to not just potential buyers, but also to GWM. I think they should fix the vehicle. They should come up with a fix with it. I have contacted GWM about this to get a comment. I'm going to be putting together a 0 to 100 video of the Tank 300 very, very soon. I'll try and incorporate any comments that they make. I'd love to hear your thoughts though, especially if there's an engineer or vehicle dynamics specialist out there who can explain how you get the rear wheels to pop off the ground in a vehicle. Is it a suspension thing? Is it a brake bias thing? Or is it a weight distribution thing? Or perhaps all three? If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.